Thank you for being with us. I'm joined by Dr. Edward Debono, who's going to pick up from where we left off with Dr. Schiavone, because obviously things have taken place. Your comments after hearing Professor Passos and Dr. Schiavone?
I think both Professor Passos and Dr. Schiavone were correct in the analysis which they were making of the situation in the United States. Let us not forget that the United States is a country where millions of people throughout the centuries, particularly from the last century to this century, fought for democracy. They sent the boys and the men overseas to ensure that democracy reigns in the world. We Europeans, the World War II started changing in Europe after the Americans entered the war to save Europe from the ravages of Nazism. So what we have experienced during the past 3-4 years was one of the most anti-democratic stances a nation could pass through. When people besiege the seat of power, the Capitol in Washington, they are attacking the heart of the nation. And attacking the heart of the nation moved forward by Mr. Trump. Donald Trump incited these people to go and break down the Capitol because he lost power.
I mean, it couldn't be worse, really.
Couldn't be worse. Couldn't be worse. And what we're hearing is that there were security failures, there were incitements for violence, the radical right practically took over. They even entered the offices of Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House of Congress. They ravaged all that they could have found. And the person who's responsible for this is only Donald Trump. And yes, they were right in bringing forward an impeachment process in the United States. A second time, by the way, it wasn't the first time. Donald Trump was going to be impeached a first time last year. Now, this second impeachment, members of his own Republican Party, about 15, I think, 12 to 15 members, voted with the Democrats to pass on this bill for impeachment.
Yes.
Listening to Donald Trump yesterday evening, after Nancy Pelosi read out from Congress the impeachment bill, you think that this guy is a saint. The way he tried to portray himself as the savior of democracy and putting people back to stop moving forward their ambitions and their intentions to overcome the rule of law, you say, am I listening to the right thing today? 3 days, 4 days after he incited them to go and actually break up all that there was in the Capitol.
Sure.
In actual fact, don't forget, he called them, they are so close to his heart, these people. It reminded me of Carmelo of Sud Bonnici calling the dry docks workers the aristocracy of the workers.
I mean, until an hour ago, this came up on Reuters, he's still insisting that his speech was totally appropriate. So
it wasn't. It was definitely.
But that was.
There are a lot of legal issues going to come up, because there are some who are stating that once he will be impeached after his term of office would run out and Mr. Biden would be appointed President of the United States, there couldn't be an impeachment because he's no longer President of the Republic. But one of the founding fathers of the American Constitution George Adams, Mr. Adams, in one of his discourses had stated that the president could also be impeached after his term of office comes to an end.
Sure.
You know, and obviously this makes sense, you know, and you can also see various parallels with what's happening in our little island, you know, having Mr. Muscat unable to appear before the Standards Committee because Mr. Speaker has decided that once he's no longer an MP, he cannot anymore appear before the committee. You can see that when the rule of law is played in this way, the state of Denmark is not being managed and administered correctly.
Absolutely. I'd like to focus a bit on our news here in Malta now, and would like to hear your comments about the very quick resignation of Dr. Gavin Gulia after he was elected.
I think first we have to understand, Leah, what do we mean by democracy? Democracy is an elected government by the people, for the people. And the two operative words are elected and the people. So, when we have this situation that an MP who is elected through a by-election, who went into Parliament, he submitted actually the application to be elected through a by-election, and is elected, that is chosen by the people. 2 minutes after he takes his oath of office, decides that he is no longer an MP and resigns. This is a farce.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
the people are not respected.
Yes.
Somebody told me this morning, actually he sent me an email, a client friend of mine, and it was very, very insightful. He told me, you know what this means? This means that the oath of office which Dr. Gulia has taken to represent the best interests of the people actually was a false oath. Mm-hmm. Because he never intended that he is going to serve the people. He wanted to remain chairman of the Tourism Authority. And the serious implication of this is not only that the people, the electors of the 7 districts, were not given due credit to the vote. The vote was considered nothing but only the whim of the Prime Minister and Dr. Gulia in a secret deal between them to appoint, it seems, Mr. Oliver Scicluna. This is not correct. Mm-hmm. This is not democracy. This is not the rule of law. The law states that when things happen naturally, in a way that a member of parliament is elected, then for some personal reason or because a member of parliament passes away, there's a by-election, and this MP is elected through a by-election, one assumes that he has to serve the term. Otherwise, Dr. Gulia should not have submitted his candidacy for the by-election.
What are your comments about Dr. Dr. Gulia being reappointed as chairman of the MTA? What are your comments about that?
It's absolutely ridiculous. You don't change hats this way. You assume your responsibilities and you act according to the decisions you would have taken.
So, I mean, when we're at this...
this shows that this was a secret deal between the Prime Minister and Dr. Gulia, who wanted a co-option to happen. And they obviously did not want Pulicino Orlando to be appointed or be elected in Parliament. So they wanted to use a co-option, and Mr. Azzopardi as well.
Dr. Pulicino Orlando is denying that. I mean, it's
well, he can deny it as long as he wants to deny it, but the facts prove what I am saying. As a matter of fact, a number of Labour MPs and ministers did not know with this manoeuvre. Obviously, it was an under-the-cover manoeuvre of the Prime Minister and Dr. Gulia. The proof is in the replies. People like Deo de Battista, people like Carmelo Abela, people like Jose Herrera gave to journalists and even wrote on Facebook congratulating Dr. Gulia on his election. So if they knew that there was this farce going to happen in Parliament, obviously they would not have congratulated him.
At this stage, what is your opinion about the appointment of a chairman for the MTA again? What should the procedure be when we're at this stage now?
I think the procedure should be that, first of all, there should be an open selection. People who feel that they are capable of doing the job should offer themselves for the job. Then obviously Cabinet should discuss the merits and demerits of each of the people who would have submitted that application. And then subsequently, after a decision is taken, in the best interests of the country, one would appoint a person of, I would say at this particular moment in time, of business acumen, from the tourism sector, knowing the markets, and also with a vision where we have to go after this pandemic comes to an end. I'm not saying that Dr. Gulia has none of these merits, but I don't think that he is the ideal person at this particular moment in time that we're living through.
Thank you very much, Dr. Debono. Thank you. I'm with Dr. Edward Debono. Before we close today, I'd like to remind you of our appeal that you've seen on our media. When in 2006, a lady by the name of Daphne and her daughter, Jessica Camilleri, went missing on the last day of June in 2006. Jessica was 13 years old. Today she's 27 years old. We're making an appeal again. Anyone who knows the whereabouts of Jessica to make contact with Inspector Silvana Gaffa at the Victim Support Unit at the police headquarters. Thank you very much for watching. On behalf of Dr. Debono, who's here with me today, and myself, I wish you a good evening. Thank you.